Some decisions change your life in ways you never see coming. And for Zola Bennett, saying yes to a stranger's desperate dream would lead her somewhere she never imagined possible. Picture this: a sunny Saturday morning in a neighborhood art gallery where the walls are covered in children's fingerprints and hope. 28-year-old Zola moves between tiny easels, her warm brown eyes lighting up as she guides small hands across canvas. There's no wrong way to create, she tells a shy 6-year-old girl clutching a paintbrush. Just let your heart show you the colors. This is Zola's world, simple, joyful, purposeful. She lives in a modest apartment above a bakery where the smell of fresh bread wakes her every morning. Her neighbors know her name. Her church family embraces her every Sunday. She volunteers, she teaches, she pours herself into others. And she's content. Or at least, that's what she tells herself when she catches glimpses of young couples holding hands after service. When she overhears her friends planning baby showers and anniversary dinners. Zola made a choice long ago, a sacred one, to save herself for marriage, to honor her faith above everything else. It's a decision that's cost her dates, raised eyebrows, even quiet judgment. But it's hers, and she's never wavered. Still, late at night when the city quiets down and she's alone with her sketches and her prayers, there's a whisper in her heart asking, when will it be my turn? But Zola doesn't dwell on loneliness. She's learned to find God in the gaps, to trust that purpose sometimes looks different than the picture-perfect life everyone else seems to have. Which is exactly where she is mentally and spiritually, when her phone rings on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. The voice on the other end is professional, clinical. Ms. Bennett? This is Dr. Martinez from the Metropolitan Fertility Clinic. We have an unusual opportunity we'd like to discuss with you. Zola almost hangs up, thinking it's a mistake. She's not trying to have a baby. She's not even dating. But something, maybe curiosity, maybe divine nudge, makes her listen. And what Dr. Martinez explains next stops her cold. A man, a widower, desperately wants to honor his late wife's dream of having a child. He needs a surrogate, someone compassionate, someone trustworthy, someone exactly like Zola. Now, across the city in a glass tower that touches the clouds, Oliver Whitman sits in his corner office staring at a photograph he keeps hidden in his desk drawer. Grace, his wife, his everything, gone for over a year now, taken by a sudden illness that gave them no time to prepare, no time to say the things that mattered. They'd talked about children, dreamed about them late at night, picked out names, imagined tiny feet running through their home. But life had other plans. And now Oliver, 42 years old, successful beyond measure, powerful beyond imagination, sits alone in a penthouse that echoes with absence. His colleagues see the sharp suits, the confident handshake, the commanding presence in boardrooms. They don't see him talking to Grace's grave every Sunday, promising her he'll find a way to keep their dream alive. Which is why he's here, at this fertility clinic, signing papers that feel both clinical and sacred. Dr. Martinez assured him they'd find the right person, someone who understands what this means. When Zola walks into that sterile conference room 3 days later, neither of them is prepared for what happens next. Oliver stands when she enters, tall, distinguished, his grief worn like an expensive cologne. Zola clutches her purse, suddenly aware of the gap between her thrift store dress and his tailored everything. They shake hands. The contract sits between them like a canyon. Dr. Martinez explains the medical process, IVF, prenatal care, legal protections. It all sounds so transactional, so removed from the miracle they're discussing. Oliver speaks carefully, formally. I want you to know this child will be loved, desperately loved. And Zola hears something crack in his voice, something real beneath the CEO polish. I understand, she says softly. That's why I'm here. As they're leaving, Zola's art gallery brochure slips from her bag. Oliver picks it up, studies it for a moment longer than necessary. You teach art. His eyes meet hers, and for the first time, there's genuine curiosity there. I do, Zola smiles. It's where I feel closest to God, helping kids discover they can create something beautiful. Oliver nods slowly, something shifting in his expression. That's remarkable. It's a small moment, barely 5 seconds, but something passes between them. A recognition, a spark of humanity in a clinical transaction. Zola goes home that night and prays harder than she's prayed in years. Her pastor encourages her. Her best friend worries. Her church family debates. But deep down, Zola knows she's going to say yes. This is bigger than her plans, her timeline, her picture-perfect expectations. This is about giving life, about compassion, about becoming part of someone else's miracle. 2 weeks later, the IVF procedure succeeds on the first try. Zola Bennett, virgin, art teacher, woman of faith, is carrying the child of Oliver Whitman, a man she barely knows. A wealthy, grieving stranger whose world couldn't be more different from hers. There's no going back now. The contract is signed. The baby is growing. And neither of them has any idea that this clinical arrangement is about to become the most unexpected love story of their lives. But here's the question that haunts them both in those early weeks. When you agree to carry someone's dream, what happens when your own heart gets carried away too? The thing about boundaries is this: you never really know how strong they are until someone starts crossing them. And as Zola's belly began to swell with new life, the carefully drawn lines between surrogate and father, between hired help and something more, started blurring in ways neither of them saw coming. Month 1 feels exactly like what it's supposed to be: professional, measured, safe. Oliver sends a weekly text. "How are you feeling? Do you need anything?" Zola responds with medical updates, appointment confirmations, polite thank yous. They're strangers bound by contract and biology. Nothing more. But here's what nobody tells you about carrying someone's child. It creates a connection that paperwork can't define. Every flutter, every change in Zola's body is tied to Oliver's future, his grief, his hope. And every time he checks in, she feels the weight of his vulnerability hidden behind formal words. It's month 2 when things start shifting. Zola's sitting in Dr. Martinez's office for a routine ultrasound, and Oliver shows up unannounced. "I hope it's okay," he says, almost apologetic, loosening his tie like it's choking him. I wanted to hear the heartbeat." The doctor smiles, applies cold gel to Zola's stomach, and suddenly the room fills with sound. That impossible, rapid thumping that proves life is happening. Oliver's face transforms. The CO mask cracks completely. His eyes well up, and he covers his mouth with his hand. Overcome. Zola watches him, this powerful man reduced to tears by a sound, and something shifts in her chest. This isn't about money or contracts anymore. This is about a father meeting his child for the first time. After the appointment, they stand in the parking lot, awkward again now that the moment has passed. "Thank you," Oliver says, and his voice is rough with emotion, "for letting me be there." Zola surprises herself by touching his arm gently. "It's your baby, Oliver. You should be there for everything." He looks at her hand on his sleeve, then at her face, and something unspoken passes between them. "Would you?" He hesitates, then continues, "Would you like to get coffee? I'd like to know more about you, if that's appropriate." Appropriate. That word hangs in the air like a question mark. Is it appropriate for a surrogate and a father to become friends? Where's the line? Should there even be a line? Zola thinks about her church, her community, what people might say. Then she thinks about the loneliness she saw in Oliver's eyes when that heartbeat filled the room. "Coffee would be nice," she says. That coffee turns into 2 hours at a quiet cafe where Oliver asks about her childhood, her art, her faith. Zola finds herself telling him about losing her father when she was 12, how art became her way of processing grief, how her mother worked 3 jobs to keep them afloat. "She taught me that dignity isn't about what you have," Zola says, stirring her tea. "It's about how you treat people when you have nothing to gain from them." Oliver goes quiet, and Zola worries she's overstepped, made some kind of commentary on wealth and character. But then he says, "Grace would have loved you. She always said the same thing." And just like that, his late wife is sitting at the table with them. Zola expects it to feel awkward, but instead it feels sacred, like Grace is somehow blessing this strange connection. Oliver talks about her for the first time since Zola met him. How Grace grew up poor too. How success never changed her kindness. How her death left a hole in the world that nothing could fill. She wanted children so badly, he says, staring into his coffee. She used to say she had so much love inside her that it would be a crime not to share it. He looks up at Zola. That's what you're giving me. A chance to not let that love die with her. The weight of that statement sits between them. Zola realizes she's not just carrying a baby. She's carrying hope, legacy, the survival of love beyond death. It's beautiful and terrifying all at once. When they finally leave the cafe, the sun is setting, painting the city in gold and amber. Oliver insists on driving Zola home, and as they pull up to her modest building, he says something that changes everything. You're not what I expected. Zola laughs nervously. What did you expect? Someone doing this for money. Someone who saw it as just a job. He turns to face her fully. But you care. I can see it. And I'm grateful. The sincerity in his voice makes Zola's heart skip. She realizes with sudden clarity that she's starting to care about more than just the baby. She's starting to care about the father too. Month 3 arrives, and with it, a shift in their dynamic that neither acknowledges but both feel. Oliver starts calling instead of texting. Their conversations stretch longer, 30 minutes, an hour, sometimes more. He asks about her art students, remembers their names, follows up on stories she told him weeks ago. Zola finds herself looking forward to his calls, checking her phone more than she should, feeling disappointed when a day passes without hearing his voice. Her best friend, Tasha, notices. Girl, you're glowing, and it's not just the pregnancy. She says one Sunday after church. What's going on with you and this man? Zola deflects. Nothing's going on. He's just being supportive. But Tasha knows her too well. Zola Bennett, I've known you since we were 15. I see how you smile when your phone rings. Just be careful, okay? Rich men and women like us. That story doesn't usually end well. The words lodge in Zola's chest like a stone. Tasha's right, isn't she? What is she thinking? Oliver lives in a penthouse. She lives above a bakery. He runs board meetings. She teaches finger painting. He lost the love of his life. She's never even been kissed. These are facts, boundaries, reality. But then why does her heart race every time she sees his name on her phone? The answer comes on a rainy Thursday evening in month 4. Oliver calls with an unusual request. There's an art exhibit opening tomorrow night at the Whitman Gallery. I know it's short notice, but I remembered you saying you love modern impressionism, and I thought, would you like to go? With me. Zola's breath catches. This isn't coffee. This isn't a medical appointment. What is this? As friends, Oliver adds quickly, maybe sensing her hesitation. I just think you could use a break from pregnancy stress, and honestly, I could use some company that doesn't involve quarterly projections. Zola knows she should say no. This is crossing a line, stepping into territory the contract never covered. But she hears herself say, I'd love to. She hangs up and immediately panics. What does she wear? What will people think? What is she doing? That night, she prays for clarity, for wisdom, for a sign that she's not making a terrible mistake. The sign doesn't come. Or maybe it does, and she's just not ready to read it yet. The gallery is everything Zola imagined and nothing like she expected. Soaring ceilings, marble floors, art that costs more than her yearly salary hanging casually on pristine white walls. Oliver meets her at the entrance, and for the first time, she sees him outside of professional context. He's wearing dark jeans and a charcoal sweater instead of a suit, and somehow he looks more real, more human. You look beautiful, he says, and Zola's hand instinctively goes to her small but visible baby bump. She'd chosen a simple navy dress that her mother helped her pick out. But standing here in this world of wealth and sophistication, she feels exposed. Oliver seems to sense her discomfort. Hey, he says gently, offering his arm. It's just art and pretentious people drinking overpriced wine. You belong here more than most of them. Something about his words steadies her. They walk through the exhibit together, and Zola forgets to be nervous. She gets lost in the paintings. Bold strokes of color, landscapes that seem to breathe, abstracts that make her think and feel in ways she can't articulate. Oliver watches her more than he watches the art. "Tell me what you see," he says as they stand before a massive canvas of swirling blues and golds. Zola tilts her head, studying it. "Freedom," she finally says, like the artist was trying to capture what it feels like to let go of fear and just exist in the moment. Oliver is quiet for a long moment. "That's beautiful. I see chaos." "Maybe chaos and freedom are the same thing," Zola suggests. "Maybe we only call it chaos when we're too afraid to surrender to it." The words hang between them, heavy with meaning neither of them fully acknowledges. They move to the next piece, and the next, falling into an easy rhythm of observation and conversation. Zola points out technical details, explains brushwork and composition. Oliver shares stories about Grace dragging him to galleries, how he never understood her passion for art until now, seeing it through Zola's eyes. They laugh at a modern sculpture that looks like twisted metal but supposedly represents the human condition. They debate whether abstract art is profound or pretentious. They forget, for these stolen hours, that they're anything other than two people enjoying art and each other's company. Then Oliver touches her hand. It's innocent. He's guiding her attention to a painting across the room, but his fingers brush hers and linger just a second too long. Their eyes meet. The gallery noise fades. Something electric passes between them. Acknowledgement of what they've both been feeling but refusing to name. Zola pulls her hand back, heart hammering. It's getting late." Oliver blinks, like waking from a trance. "Right? Yes. Let me take you home." The drive back is thick with tension. Not uncomfortable, but charged, like the air before a storm. They don't talk much. The silence says everything. When Oliver pulls up to Zola's building, neither of them moves to leave. "Thank you for tonight," Zola says finally. "I needed this more than I realized." "So did I," Oliver admits. Then, after a pause, "Zola, can I ask you something personal?" Her pulse quickens. "Okay. Why did you really agree to be a surrogate? I mean, beyond compassion. What made you say yes to carrying a stranger's child?" The question catches her off guard. She thinks about lying, about giving him the easy answer. But something about the intimacy of the dark car, the vulnerability in his voice, makes her honest. "Because I've spent my whole life waiting for the right moment, the right person, the right circumstances to start living fully. And I realized I might wait forever." She looks down at her hands. "This felt like a chance to be part of something bigger than my fear, to create life even if I'm not ready for my own yet." Oliver absorbs this. "Can I tell you something I haven't told anyone?" Zola nods. "I'm terrified I'm going to fail this child, that I'm bringing a baby into the world just to fill a void, and that's selfish, and Grace would be ashamed of me." His voice cracks. "What if I'm not doing this for the right reasons?" Zola reaches over and takes his hand deliberately this time. "Oliver, I've watched you at every appointment. I've heard how you talk about this baby. You're not filling a void. You're creating a future. There's a difference." He looks at their joined hands, then at her face, and something shifts in his expression. Gratitude, wonder, something deeper. "When did you become so wise?" "Probably around the same time you became more than just the wealthy CEO who hired me," Zola says before she can stop herself. The confession hangs in the air. Oliver's thumb brushes across her knuckles. "Zola." Her name is a question and an answer. But before either can say more, Zola's phone buzzes. It's Tasha. "Girl, where are you?" "Church meeting in the morning. Remember?" Reality crashes back in. Zola pulls her hand away. "I should go." "Wait." Oliver's voice stops her as she reaches for the door handle. Can we do this again? The gallery, dinner, just talking?" "Say no," her rational mind screams. "This is dangerous. You're his employee. He's grieving. You're from different worlds." The baby complicates everything. But her heart, that traitorous organ, whispers, "Say yes." "I'd like that," she tells him. And so begins the unraveling of every boundary they'd carefully constructed. Over the next month, as Zola enters her second trimester and starts showing noticeably, she and Oliver fall into a pattern that everyone around them notices but neither wants to label. Dinner at quiet restaurants where Oliver listens to her stories about her students. Walks through the park where they discuss philosophy, faith, the meaning of family. Oliver attending not just medical appointments but also Zola's art shows, sitting in the back row and smiling with genuine pride when her students' work is displayed. He starts sending her things, not expensive gifts that might feel transactional but thoughtful ones. A book about an artist she mentioned loving. Ginger tea for morning sickness. A sketch pad with quality paper because he noticed hers was falling apart. Zola tries to maintain perspective, to remember this is temporary, conditional, built on the foundation of a baby that isn't hers to keep. But perspective is hard when Oliver texts her good morning every day, when he asks about her dreams, when he looks at her like she's precious rather than hired. Her church community starts whispering, not maliciously but with concern. Sister Zola, we're worried about you getting too attached. Her pastor's wife says gently after a Sunday service. This man, he's not from our world. And when the baby comes, she doesn't finish the sentence. She doesn't have to. Zola knows what she means. When the baby comes, Oliver will take his child and return to his penthouse life. And where will that leave her? With empty arms and a broken heart, most likely. I'm being careful, Zola assures her, but the words taste like a lie. Meanwhile, Oliver faces his own scrutiny. His business partner corners him after a board meeting. Oliver, what are you doing? Getting involved with the surrogate? Do you know how this looks? The legal complications alone. There are no legal complications. Oliver cuts him off. We're friends. Friends. His partner laughs, but there's no humor in it. Oliver, I've known you 15 years. I've never seen you look at anyone the way you look at her. Not even Grace. The words hit like a physical blow. Don't, Oliver warns. Don't bring Grace into this. Grace is already in this. She's in everything. And that's the problem, isn't it? You're trying to move on. But you feel guilty. So you're telling yourself this thing with Zola is about the baby, about friendship, about anything except what it actually is. Oliver wants to argue, to deny it, but he can't. Because his partner is right. Somewhere between that first coffee and tonight, friendship became inadequate to describe what he feels for Zola. It's in the way his day doesn't feel complete until he's heard her voice. It's in how her laugh has become his favorite sound. It's in the fact that he's started imagining not just being a father to this child, but building a life with the woman carrying it. And that's terrifying. Because loving Zola means letting go of Grace, and letting go of Grace feels like betrayal, like erasing her, like admitting his future doesn't include the woman who was supposed to be his forever. The guilt is crushing. Some nights, Oliver stands at his floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city lights, and talks to Grace like she can hear him. I don't know what to do, he whispers. I don't know how to honor what we had while opening my heart to what could be. Tell me this is okay. Tell me you understand. The city offers no answers. Only silence and the weight of a heart caught between past and present. It's month 5 when everything comes to a head. Zola's baby bump is prominent now, undeniable proof of the life growing inside her. She's at the gallery after hours, finishing up paperwork, when Oliver shows up unexpectedly. I was in the neighborhood, he says, which they both know is a lie. His office is across town. But Zola smiles and invites him in. They walk through the empty gallery, past children's artwork taped to walls, past paint-splattered tables and construction paper dreams. Oliver picks up one of the paintings, a child's interpretation of a family, stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. Do you ever think about having your own? He asks quietly. Your own children, your own family. Zola takes a shaky breath. I used to think about it all the time. The perfect husband, the white picket fence, babies that were mine to keep. She touches her stomach gently. Now I don't know what to think anymore. Why not? Oliver presses, and there's an urgency in his voice that makes Zola's heart race. Because nothing's gone according to plan, Oliver. I'm carrying a child I'll have to give away. I'm spending all my time with a man who... She stops herself. Don't say it. Don't make it real. A man who what? Oliver steps closer. They're standing in the middle of the gallery, surrounded by children's art and fading light from the windows, and Zola feels like they're balanced on the edge of something that will change everything. A man who's grieving his wife, she finally says. A man from a completely different world. A man who'll take this baby and go back to his life, and I'll just be the woman who helped him. Is that really what you think? Oliver's voice is rough with emotion. That you're just some service provider? That when this is over, I'll just disappear. Zola forces herself to meet his eyes. Won't you? The question lands like a challenge. Oliver opens his mouth, closes it, struggles with words that won't come. Because what can he say? That he's falling for her? That he imagines a future where she's not just the surrogate but the mother, not just the hired help but his partner? That sounds insane. They've known each other 5 months. He's still grieving. She's carrying his child. The complications are endless. But standing here, looking at Zola's beautiful, vulnerable face, Oliver realizes something. Complications don't matter when you've found something real. I don't want to disappear, he says finally. I don't want this to end when the baby comes. Zola, her phone rings. The moment shatters. It's the doctor's office, and the tone in the nurse's voice makes Zola's blood run cold. Ms. Bennett, we need you to come in immediately. There's been some concerning developments with your latest blood work. False labor? Preeclampsia? Something with the baby? Oliver's face drains of color. We're coming right now, he says, taking charge immediately. The drive to the hospital is the longest of both their lives. Oliver's knuckles are white on the steering wheel. Zola's hand rests protectively on her stomach, praying silently, bargaining with God. Please let the baby be okay. Please don't let me lose this child. Not when it means so much. Not when Oliver's already lost so much. At the hospital, they run tests, check vitals, hook Zola up to monitors that beep and pulse with mechanical indifference. Dr. Martinez comes in with a serious expression that makes Oliver stand up like he's preparing for battle. The baby is fine, she says first, and they both exhale in relief. But Zola, your blood pressure is elevated, and we're seeing some protein in your urine. Early signs of preeclampsia. It's manageable, but we need to monitor you closely. Stress can be a major factor. She gives them both a meaningful look. I need you to rest. No stress. No complications. After the doctor leaves, Oliver and Zola sit in the sterile exam room, the reality of their situation crashing down. They almost lost this. This baby, this miracle, this tiny life that's become the center of both their worlds. I'll back off, Oliver says abruptly. Whatever stress I'm causing, I'll... No, Zola interrupts. Oliver, you're not the stress. This is. She gestures between them. Not knowing what this is. Being afraid to name it. Pretending we're just friends when we both know. When we both know what? Oliver's eyes are intense, demanding honesty. And Zola, exhausted from fear and emotion, tired of pretending, finally tells the truth. When we both know I'm falling in love with you. The words hang in the air like a confession and a curse. Oliver's face goes through a dozen emotions. Shock, joy, fear, guilt. Zola, He runs a hand through his hair, paces the small room like a caged animal. This is impossible. You understand that, right? You're carrying my child. You're 20 years younger than me. We're from completely different worlds. I'm still grieving my wife. You've never even... He stops, realizing what he's about to say. But Zola finishes for him. I've never even been with a man. I know, Oliver. Trust me, I know all the reasons this is crazy. But knowing something's complicated doesn't make it less real. She stands, facing him fully despite the hospital gown and the monitors attached to her. You asked me in the car weeks ago what I see when I look at that abstract painting. I said freedom. But you want to know what I really see. She's crying now, and she doesn't try to stop. I see someone brave enough to let go of what's safe and familiar and just feel. I see someone taking a risk even when the outcome is uncertain. And I'm tired of being afraid, Oliver. I'm tired of waiting for the perfect moment that might never come. So yes, I'm falling in love with you. And maybe that makes me foolish or naive or completely insane. But it's the truth. Oliver stands frozen, and Zola watches his internal war play out across his face. Finally, he says, I need to go. And he walks out, just like that, leaves her standing in the hospital room, heart broken open, confession hanging in the air unanswered. Zola sinks back onto the exam table, hand on her stomach, and feels the baby kick, a reminder of what's at stake, what she stands to lose. Outside in the hospital parking lot, Oliver sits in his car and breaks down completely. Sobs rack his body, months of grief and guilt and confused feelings pouring out. He pulls out his phone and looks at Grace's picture. Her smile, her eyes, the life they'd planned. I'm sorry, he whispers to the photo. I'm so sorry. I never meant to. To what? To survive her? To find someone else? To feel joy again? Across town, Zola's phone buzzes with messages from concerned friends, but she ignores them all. She lies in her apartment in the dark, hand on her belly, and wonders if speaking the truth was the bravest or stupidest thing she's ever done. The baby kicks again, and Zola whispers to it. Whatever happens, little one, you're loved, so deeply loved. By your father, by me, by everyone waiting to meet you. That's enough. That has to be enough. But as she drifts into uneasy sleep, one question burns in her mind and refuses to quiet. If love is enough, why does she feel so utterly alone? And why, despite his silence, does her heart still hope that Oliver will come back? That he'll choose her, choose them, choose the messy, complicated, beautiful possibility of a future neither of them planned? The night offers no answers. Only the steady kick of new life, the echo of unspoken words, and the terrible, wonderful uncertainty of what comes next. Because here's the thing about falling in love against all odds. The fall is exhilarating, but it's the landing that determines whether you soar or shatter. And for Zola and Oliver, the ground is rushing up fast, and neither of them knows which it will be. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is let someone walk away. But what happens when they choose to come back? 3 days pass in silence. 3 days where Zola teaches her art classes on autopilot, smiling at children while her heart feels like shattered glass. 3 days where Oliver buries himself in work, sitting through board meetings without hearing a single word, staring at contracts without seeing the text. They're both drowning in the space between what was said and what remains unspoken. Zola's friends rally around her. Tasha brings over casseroles and comfort, sitting on Zola's small couch rubbing her feet while she cries. Men are idiots, Tasha declares. Even rich ones, especially rich ones. But Zola shakes her head. He's not an idiot. He's grieving. He's scared. I shouldn't have said anything. I should have just kept it professional. Girl, stop. Tasha cuts her off. You told the truth. That's never the wrong thing to do. If he can't handle it, that's on him, not you. But knowing that intellectually doesn't make the heartbreak hurt any less. Meanwhile, Oliver sits in his penthouse, staring at the city lights that used to bring him comfort. His business partner stops by, takes one look at him, and pours 2 glasses of expensive scotch. You look like hell, he observes. Want to talk about it? Oliver doesn't want to talk, but the words come anyway, pouring out like a confession. He tells his friend everything, the coffee dates, the art gallery, the way Zola makes him laugh, the hospital scare, her confession. She said she's falling in love with me. Oliver finishes, his voice raw, and I ran. Like a coward, I just ran. His friend is quiet for a long moment. You want to know what I think? Not particularly, Oliver mutters. I think you're not running from Zola. You're running from yourself. From the guilt of moving on. From the fear that being happy again means Grace didn't matter. The words hit home. Oliver sets down his glass with shaking hands. I go to her grave every Sunday. I talk to her. I ask her what to do, and I get nothing back. No signs, no answers, just silence. Maybe the silence is the answer, his friend suggests gently. Maybe Grace's gift to you is letting you go, letting you find happiness again. Oliver, you loved Grace. That's never going to change. But she's gone. And Zola is here, alive, real, and by some miracle, in love with you despite all your baggage. He leans forward. The question isn't whether you're betraying Grace by loving someone else. The question is, are you brave enough to accept love when it's offered? That night, Oliver does something he hasn't done since Grace died. He writes her a letter. Not an email, not a text. An actual letter, pen on paper, the way she used to love. My dearest Grace, he begins, and the words flow like a river finally breaking through a dam. He writes about the guilt, the grief, the impossibility of letting go. He writes about Zola, her kindness, her strength, her laugh that sounds like sunlight. He writes about the baby, their baby, the dream they never got to fulfill that's somehow becoming real in the most unexpected way. I don't know how to love someone else without feeling like I'm erasing you, he writes. But I'm starting to think that maybe love doesn't work that way. Maybe the heart doesn't replace, it expands. Maybe you can hold grief and joy in the same space. Maybe honoring what we had means being brave enough to embrace what could be. He signs it, seals it in an envelope, and the next morning he drives to Grace's grave. The cemetery is quiet in the early dawn light. Oliver kneels at her headstone, places the letter on the ground, and speaks out loud for the first time in months. I love you, Grace. I will always love you. But I think it's time for me to live again. Really live, not just exist. And if you can hear me, if there's any part of you that still cares about my happiness, give me a sign. Tell me I'm not making a terrible mistake. The morning is still. No wind, no birds, no dramatic movie moment. Just silence. And somehow, in that silence, Oliver finds peace. Because maybe his friend was right. Maybe the silence is Grace releasing him, blessing him, telling him it's okay to choose happiness. Oliver stands, touches the cold marble one last time, and whispers, "Thank you for everything, but especially for this, for loving me enough to let me go." When he turns to leave, he feels lighter than he has in months. But the question remains. Is it too late? Has he broken something with Zola that can't be repaired? There's only one way to find out. Oliver drives straight to Zola's apartment, his heart pounding so hard he can barely breathe. He rehearses what he'll say. Apologies, explanations, confessions. But when he gets there, when he climbs those stairs above the bakery and knocks on her door, all his prepared words disappear. Because Zola opens the door looking exhausted and beautiful and heartbroken. And Oliver realizes that speeches don't matter. Only truth does. I'm sorry, he says simply. I'm so sorry. You were brave enough to tell me the truth and I ran. I was scared and stupid and drowning in guilt that had nothing to do with you. Zola stands in the doorway, one hand on her prominent belly, tears already streaming down her face. Oliver, let me finish, he interrupts gently. Please. I went to Grace's grave this morning. I told her about you, about us, about this baby, and I asked her for a sign, for permission, for something to tell me what to do. He steps closer, his eyes locked on Zola's. And you know what I realized? I don't need a sign. I don't need permission. I need to stop letting fear and grief dictate my life. Zola, you were right about that painting. About freedom being the courage to let go and just feel. His voice breaks. And what I feel is this. I'm falling in love with you too. Maybe I have been since that first day in the clinic when you picked up that art brochure. Maybe it was the ultrasound when you held my hand. Maybe it was watching you explain Impressionism like it was the most important thing in the world. I don't know when it happened, but it did. And I'm done running from it. Zola is crying fully now, her whole body shaking. But what about Grace? What about... Grace would want me to be happy, Oliver says with certainty. And somehow, impossibly, you make me happy. You and this baby, our baby. You've given me something I thought I'd lost forever. Hope, a future. A reason to wake up in the morning that isn't just obligation. They're standing so close now that Oliver can see the gold flecks in Zola's brown eyes, can count each tear sliding down her cheeks. I know this is complicated, he continues. I know we're from different worlds. I know there are 1,000 practical reasons why this shouldn't work. But Zola, the heart doesn't do practical. And my heart chose you. The words hang in the air between them, vulnerable and raw and true. Zola searches his face, looking for doubt, for hesitation. She finds only sincerity and love and a question that mirrors her own. Do we have the courage to try? I'm scared, she whispers. Me too, Oliver admits. Terrified, actually. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. And then Zola smiles, really smiles, for the first time in days. That might be the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. Which is sad, considering it's also the only romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. Oliver laughs, relief flooding through him. Well, I've got about 15 years of romantic gestures to make up for. I should probably get started. He takes her hand, intertwining their fingers. Zola Bennett, would you let me take you to dinner? An actual date this time. No pretending it's just friendship or baby business. A real, honest-to-God date where I get to tell everyone that the most incredible woman in the world somehow agreed to give me a chance. Zola pretends to consider it. I don't know. I'm pretty busy. I've got finger painting at 3, a church potluck on Sunday, and oh yeah, I'm carrying someone's baby. Right about that? Oliver grins. I know the father. He's deeply, ridiculously grateful. And also deeply, ridiculously in love with you. Well, when you put it that way. Zola pulls him into the apartment, into her arms, into a kiss that tastes like tears and coffee and new beginnings. It's gentle and sweet and charged with months of unspoken feelings finally finding expression. When they finally pull apart, both are breathing hard, foreheads pressed together, smiling like fools. So is that a yes to dinner? Oliver murmurs. That's a yes to everything, Zola answers. And just like that, the story shifts. No more hiding, no more pretending, no more fear. Just two people choosing each other despite the complications, despite the odds, despite every logical reason to walk away. Over the following weeks, Oliver and Zola navigate their new reality. They go public with their relationship, first to friends and family, then to Oliver's business associates, eventually to anyone who cares to know. The reactions are mixed. Some of Oliver's corporate crowd can't hide their disapproval. A surrogate? One investor's wife whispers loudly at a charity gala. How unconventional. But Oliver, standing beside Zola with his hand protectively on her lower back, simply smiles. Unconventional is my new favorite word. Zola's church community is more divided. Some celebrate the unexpected love story, seeing God's hand in bringing two lonely souls together. Others worry about the racial divide, the wealth gap, the speed of the relationship. But Zola's pastor surprises everyone during Sunday service with a sermon about unexpected blessings. Sometimes God's plans don't look like ours. He preaches, his eyes finding Zola in the congregation. Sometimes love arrives in ways we don't anticipate, through circumstances we didn't orchestrate. And when it does, the faithful response isn't judgment, it's celebration. After the service, the congregation surrounds Zola with hugs and well wishes. Oliver, attending church for the first time since Grace's funeral, is welcomed with careful warmth. An elderly woman grabs his hand and says firmly, "You take care of our girl, you hear? She's special." "I know she is," Oliver replies, his voice thick with emotion. "I promise I will." The weeks blur into a beautiful chaos of blending worlds. Oliver attends Zola's art shows, sitting in tiny plastic chairs meant for children, applauding when her students present their work. Zola accompanies Oliver to business dinners, holding her own in conversations about markets and mergers, surprising his associates with her intelligence and grace. They plan for the baby together now, not as surrogate and father, but as partners, as a couple building a family. They argue playfully about names. Oliver wants something classic. Zola wants something meaningful. They compromise on Grace Elena, honoring Oliver's past while embracing their future. Grace would love that, Oliver says softly when they decide. She would love you. The baby shower becomes a symbol of their merged worlds. Held at an elegant hotel venue Oliver insists on, but decorated with handmade banners from Zola's art students. Oliver's corporate colleagues mingle awkwardly with Zola's church family over finger sandwiches and baby games. At first, the two groups circle each other warily, unsure how to bridge the cultural and economic divide. Then Tasha, bless her bold heart, stands up and taps her glass. Okay, everyone, I know this is weird. Rich folks and regular folks in the same room, trying to pretend we're all comfortable. But you know what? We all have one thing in common. We love these two crazy people and the baby they're about to bring into this world. So let's stop being weird and start celebrating. The ice breaks. Conversation flows. Oliver's business partner ends up in a passionate debate about football with Zola's uncle. The investor's wife who'd whispered unconventional gets schooled on child-rearing by Zola's mother. By the end of the shower, phone numbers are exchanged, promises made to stay in touch. Two worlds, slowly becoming one. As Zola enters her 9th month, heavy with child and glowing with happiness, Oliver makes one final gesture. On a warm evening, he takes her to the same museum where they had their first date. They walk through familiar halls, past paintings that witnessed the beginning of their love story. Oliver leads her to that abstract painting, the blues and golds that Zola said represented freedom. "Remember what you told me?" he asks. "That freedom is letting go of fear and just existing in the moment?" Zola nods, her hand in his. "I remember. You were right. About everything. About taking risks. About choosing love over fear. About chaos and freedom being the same thing." He turns to face her fully, and Zola's breath catches because she knows. She knows what's coming. Oliver kneels, right there in the museum, in front of God and strangers and art that costs more than most people's homes. He pulls out a ring, not ostentatious, but beautiful, a simple band with a single perfect stone. "Zola Bennett, you've taught me how to live again. You've shown me that love doesn't diminish when shared. It multiplies. You've given me a daughter, a future, a reason to believe in joy after grief." His voice is steady despite the tears streaming down his face. "Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to deserve the gift of your love? Will you be my wife, not just our baby's mother, but my partner in everything?" Zola is sobbing, laughing, nodding before she can even form words. "Yes, yes, of course, yes." Oliver slides the ring onto her finger, stands, and kisses her deeply while museum visitors burst into spontaneous applause. They're both crying and laughing, caught up in the impossible beauty of this moment, this choice, this love that was never supposed to happen but did anyway. 2 weeks later, Grace Elena Whitman arrives at 3 in the morning, screaming her lungs out with healthy, angry vigor. Oliver holds Zola's hand through every contraction, coaches her breathing, whispers encouragement when she's certain she can't go on. And when the doctor finally places that squirming, crying, perfect baby in Zola's arms, when Oliver sees his daughter for the first time, really sees her, not through an ultrasound but here, alive, real, he breaks down completely. "She's perfect," he manages through tears. "You're both perfect." Zola looks up at him, exhausted and radiant and transformed by the miracle they've just witnessed. "We made something beautiful," she whispers. "The three of us, you, me, and Grace up in heaven. We made something beautiful." Oliver kisses her forehead, then gently touches his daughter's tiny hand. Grace Elena wraps her impossibly small fingers around his thumb, and Oliver feels his heart crack open in the best possible way. The months that follow are a blur of sleepless nights and first smiles, of learning to be parents together, of building a family from unconventional beginnings. They marry in a small ceremony that blends both their traditions, held at Zola's church but with elegant touches that reflect Oliver's taste. Zola wears her mother's pearls and a dress that cost more than her first car. Oliver wears a suit but adds a pocket square in the vibrant colors of Zola's favorite painting. Their vows make everyone cry. Zola promises to always tell Oliver the truth, even when it's scary. Oliver promises to never run from that truth, even when it's hard. They promise to honor Grace's memory by living fully, loving completely, and teaching their daughter that family is built on choice as much as blood. The reception is chaos in the best way. Gospel music and jazz, soul food and fine dining. Her world and his world finally, completely merged. Late in the evening, Oliver finds Zola on the balcony. Baby Grace asleep in her arms, looking out at the city lights. He wraps his arms around them both. "What are you thinking about?" he asks. Zola leans back into him. "About how nothing went according to plan. I was supposed to be a surrogate, nothing more. Carry a baby. Hand it over. Move on with my life. And instead," Oliver prompts, "instead I found a family, a husband, a daughter, a whole new life I never imagined possible." She turns to look at him. "What about you? Any regrets?" Oliver thinks about Grace, about grief, about the long road from loss to love. "No regrets, only gratitude. For Grace for what we had, and for you for what we have now. Both can be true. Both are beautiful." They stand there, the three of them, wrapped in each other and the future and the impossible grace of second chances. Inside, their two families laugh and dance together. Outside, the city sparkles with endless possibility. And somewhere, maybe Grace is smiling too, at peace knowing that the love she planted found new soil to grow in, that her dream of family came true in the most unexpected way. Because here's the truth about love. It doesn't follow rules or timelines or social conventions. It doesn't care about wealth or background or circumstances. It just is. And when you're brave enough to embrace it, despite fear, despite complications, despite every logical reason to walk away, it transforms everything. Oliver, Zola, and baby Grace are proof of that. A CEO, an art teacher, and the child that brought them together. Different worlds, one family, built on trust, strengthened by truth, and held together by the most powerful force in the universe. Love that chooses to stay. So here's my question for you. When was the last time you chose love over fear? When did you last take a risk on something or someone that didn't make logical sense but felt right in your heart? Zola and Oliver's story reminds us that the most beautiful things in life often come from the most unexpected places. That grief and joy can coexist. That love can bloom even in the most unlikely circumstances. That families are built not just on blood, but on choice, courage, and compassion. If this story moved you, if it made you believe in second chances and unexpected blessings, I want to hear about it. Drop a comment below telling me about a time when life surprised you with something better than what you planned. Or tell me, what boundary would you be willing to cross for love? What fear would you be willing to face? Let's start a conversation about the power of choosing courage over comfort, love over logic, hope over hesitation. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story, someone who's grieving, someone who's given up on love, someone who thinks their circumstances define their possibilities, share this video with them. Because Zola and Oliver's story isn't just about them. It's about all of us. About the truth that it's never too late for a new beginning, that love can find you when you least expect it, and that sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones we never saw coming. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories that remind you why hope matters, why love wins, and why taking risks on the human heart is always worth it. Now go out there and live your own unexpected love story. I'll be here, rooting for you every step of the way.